Moms are my remain now. Tell me say this, you can't give me this man talk now. They don't need good. I don't they talk. I'm out. I say they talk. That guy don't shoot out here. That way we go now. Yeah, they say for beating like that. We tell you the flow normal. Instead they give you
Hello. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, great. You can hear me. So today we are going to have the second class, online class, and we'll look at chapter 3 of the recommended text, which has to do with computer files and also part of chapter 2. So I guess I can start. The number today is this 3 o'clock, and we just have 69 participants. So I don't know why we don't have many people. Last class, we were up to 200, and by this time of the day, we already had 200 and something participants. Anyway, I'm going to start. So let me start by sharing my screen. Is there anybody that is joining from YouTube? Do we have anybody that is joining from YouTube? Okay. Let me reshare my screen if I'm happy. Let's see. Oh, the screen was already moved. So I'll reshare my screen and start from there. This one. This one. Okay, so like I said, this live, I think I can do away with the live. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, ma'am, I can see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So let me do something. I need to mute everybody to avoid interference. Okay, good. Okay, great. So today we'll just finish the few slides from the last class. Then we'll look at computer files. We'll remind ourselves about data, information, but this time around, we want to look at it in the perspective of a database. And like we told ourselves that we are going to use Microsoft Access for this course. So we want to situate the data and information in that regards. So in the last class, we talked about information systems. Today, we want to look at the types of information systems. So we have the management information systems, which is also called the MIS. We have the transaction processing system, which is known as TPS for short. Then we have the decision support systems, which is referred to as the DSS. And we have the executive information systems, EIS for short. So I'm going to just briefly explain them before we move to the next slide. So in the case of transaction processing system, it has to do with the transactions that occur. Example of this can be like when you're purchasing something from a supermarket, the transaction that occurs, or from a like a supermarket, the transaction that occur, that kind of transaction can be called a transaction processing, because you pick up an item, then you pay, then you get your item. That's an example of a transaction processing system. And for a management information system, it has to do with the reports that are being provided or displayed to the manager. So the manager has to make a decision based on that information that is given to him. And one of such example can be the daily sales analysis reports. So maybe the manager or the CEO of a supermarket, for our case study, can just decide to see the returns, daily sales. That kind of information will help him to know the kind of product that is moving faster. So by looking at it daily, we can say that item X has more patronage. That means he should restock that particular item. Then we also have the decision support system, which provides an interactive ad hoc support for decision making. So the management, all these things tailored to the management, and the whole essence is for them to make a decision. So an example of the decision support system is a what-if analysis to determine where to spend more or spend more in advertising. We also have the executive information. Wait, let me see what's happening in the chat. Okay. So please just allow me to run through. If you have questions, we are going to take them at the end of the class. Thank you. So we have the executive information system, which aims at providing a critical information for executives and managers. An example is like an easy access to actions of competitors. So the management might want to have informed decisions. They get that information from maybe records or information that have been provided for them, and they'll be able to make critical decisions. That's strictly what an executive information system is. They're not really particular about the details. Maybe they just need a summary, whether in visualization. So they just look at maybe a pie chart or a histogram, and they'll be able to make their decision, executive decision, from those summaries. So the other thing we want to look at is called the operational or management systems. And an example of this is an expert system. An expert system is it's like a subtle example of a chat box in the AI ecosystem today. We hear of something called the Chat GPT. So that is an expert system, is like a more robust kind of a chat box. In this case, the system is expected to provide expert advice but is limited in the intelligence. So like an example is a credit application advisory. We also have expert systems that have been provided or used in the health sector. Just like where there are no doctors, you can have a system that will be suggestive of the kind of infection that the patient is suffering from, maybe in a rural area before the person gets to meet a medical practitioner. So expert systems are systems that they have a lot of information that have been put into developing the system. Like if a patient is suffering from malaria, then you might have something like if temperature is above 36.5 degrees, then the patient has it's suggestive that the person has fever. Then you might also want to say that the patient also has body ache. So all the symptoms that are associated with malaria, that system should be able to capture them and provide necessary inference. So expert system, they make use of something called an inference engine. The inference engine, sorry, let me record this just in case. Okay, so the inference engine is the engine or is the thing that makes the system to be intelligent, so to say. So it takes, if temperature is above 36.5, he has fever. If patient complains of body ache, then you record it, fever, body ache, maybe weakness. So it adds up those responses together, and it might suggest that this person is suffering from malaria and not typhoid or something. So that's the thing about expert systems. Like I told us today, there's something in the AI community that is called the Chat GPT. So that's like people are saying that it's even more than a Google search engine, because they have put in a lot of artificial intelligence, maybe let me call them rules or rules, things that are just like building upon the example I gave us about somebody having malaria. So, but this expert system, they don't use all those deep artificial intelligence knowledge. Then we also have what is known as a knowledge management system. So it supports creation, organization, and dissemination of business knowledge throughout the company. So an example of knowledge management system is an intranet access to best business practices. So that is that about management systems. Next, we want to focus more on what we have for today, which is computer files. And the best way to do that is to remind ourselves of what we already know, like data. We said that is raw facts. Then we have information, which is a collection of facts that are organized in such a way that they have beyond just the facts. And in the last class, we made mention about information being the output of data that has been worked upon. And when we say that data has been worked upon, we are saying that a kind of operation has been, the data has undergone a kind of operation. In the last class, we made use of an example of two numbers, and we said that those two numbers can be referred to as data. And we said that assuming we want to add or perform arithmetic operations on those numbers, that at each point we are going to have an output which is suggestive or which is different from the other because of the kind of operation that has been worked on the two numbers. And I would like to just give us an example again by saying that if we have two numbers, maybe 2 plus 3, 2 and 3, and we want to perform different arithmetic operations on them. The arithmetic operations can be like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, that's finding the remainder, etc. So you see that if we add 2 plus 3, the answer is going to be 5. And if we subtract 2 from 3, then we are going to get -1. And if we multiply 2 times 3, we are going to get 6. So in essence, the different kinds of operations that acted on those two numbers gave us different outputs, which are the information. So basically, information is the output from processed data. And we also talked about, we equated the data to be the inputs, the information to be the outputs, and of course, the operations are the process. And we call that for short IPO. And we said that knowledge is an awareness and understanding of a set of information. Sorry. So this slide just depicts the kind of ways that data can be represented. So we have alphanumeric data that has to that are represented by numbers, letters, and other characters. So when we say alphanumeric, so we are referring to things like A1. So it's a combination of alphabets and numbers. A1, alphanumeric. Then we also have numeric data. Numeric data are numbers that are data that are just in the form of numbers, maybe 0 to 9. Then we have alphabets. Alphabets are from like A to Z, whether in capitals or in small letters. Then we have other characters, which can maybe whether there are special characters like percentage, ampersand, multiplication, division, etc. They're all characters. Then we also have image data. Image data can be represented as graphic images and pictures. Then we have audio data that's like music, noise, sound, or tones. Then we also have video data. Video data is represented by moving images or pictures. So different ways or different data and how they're represented. Then we also have data types: qualitative, quantitative, and numeric flow and floating. So in the case of qualitative, they are characterized by the things like average, heights. And for quantitative, you're looking at measurable quantities, like my weight is 60 kg. I traveled 9 miles. I drink 2 liters of water. So if you can measure it, then it is a qualitative kind of data. Then, like we said, we have numeric. Numeric has to do with numbers. 0, that's whole numbers. Then for floating has to do with decimal numbers, like 1.2, 20.5. The examples of floating. And all that can be classified as data types. This slide just shows us a transformation, the process of transforming data into information. We've already explained this, where we say that the data is the inputs, and the transformation process is where the processing happens. Like you want to perform different operations. at this part. So we can say this is input, this is the processing, and this information is the output. I-P-O. That's the process of transforming data into information. Then the kinds of data processing, we have manual, mechanical, electronic. So when you say manual, that means data is processed without use of any machine, like paper to pen or abacus. The mechanical, there's a machinery that has moving parts that perform some function. Example includes a vacuum cleaner and a washing machine. Though now we also have washing machine that are electronic. So in electronic, that electronic is the modern technique of processing data, and the data is processed through computers. So you can see the example I gave us of the washing machine. You can agree with me that we have some washing machine that are more mechanical than electronic, and we have some washing machines that perform the process more like a computer. So an example of this would be like the one that you use, you put water, you just put water and press from, like you carry water from maybe from the tap and put it into it, as opposed to the ones that the water, you just put the water, you connect them and they take the water from the source and you press the button and they do the washing, they do the spinning, and you get your clothes. So that's electronic. It has a kind of like a chip in it, my computer chip, that makes it look more like a computer than mechanical. Mechanical can also use electricity, but that computer chip thing is not in it. That's what I'm trying to explain in that difference between mechanical and electronic. The slides just tells us about ways of collecting information, and how is information about people collected. Well, the first way is you ask the people questions about their spending, maybe their habits, and you can also use an indirect approach, like what the supermarkets do to us these days. You go to a supermarket and they collect information about maybe your date of birth, where you live, and they give you a card, a loyalty card, whereby they say you can be saving some money, discounts. It's not about just giving you that discount. They also collect information that they can use to boost their business, like maybe on your birthdays, they can send you a message wishing you a happy birthday on your anniversaries, and you'll be like, how did these people get to know my birthday? So they want you to feel happy so that you can keep patronizing them. So that's one of the ways of collecting information. They get that information because they also want their business they want you to be happy, and they want to have a patronage for you to keep patronizing them. This slide is about producing information from data. So it's a series of steps. I'm not going to take all of them. I'm just going to list them. It is, let me see the page. We have them listed on page. On pages 37 of the recommended manual. So we have the various steps there. First of all, you collect, like I told us, if you go to a supermarket, they collect your data, your name, your birth date, your anniversary. That's the first point. Then they record it. Then verification, they sort, they classify, they calculate if there is need. If it is, you can use this for, like, when a student gains admission into this university, the student feels about data, after the information is collected, they are recorded, maybe in the university website. Then there is a kind of verification that is being done to it. Maybe to check whether the documents submitted, WAEC, whether they are authentic. Then some sorting can be done on it. Like I want to know the number of females in a class as opposed to the number of males. Then there can be classification. I want to know the number of students based on the departments, how many females are there in the science faculty. Then, of course, calculating, maybe at the end of each semester, I want to find out the students' CGPA, and there is story. Story can be whether you're doing it local. When I say local, I mean like if I'm using a laptop, I can store the information on the laptop, or I can store it on the clouds. That's about story. You can store on the laptop. You can also store. So when I store on my laptop, I can say that as primary storage. I can also store using an auxiliary storage. That's the secondary, maybe an external disk. It's the same information, but I'm storing it now using a secondary device. And the most common of the most is it common now? The most recommended now is using the cloud. So the cloud is, I'm in Nigeria, but I can have a copy of my file located somewhere in the cloud, maybe in the US, such that if the primary source gets lost or destroyed, maybe by fire, I don't get to lose all the information. So it's good to also store your documents in the cloud. And that can be seen by even our contacts, the contacts we have in our mobile phones. You can also link your contacts in your phone to your Gmail account, such that if your phone gets lost or stolen, you don't get to lose all the contacts and start from scratch. So that's a way of storing. This one is about still part of it. Yeah, so the one I was explaining is the reproducing. You store, then you reproduce, duplication of data, and also known as backup. Like I said, for security reasons, if something gets lost, once it's the one my phone gets lost, I don't get to just lose all my documents. I have some copy or a copy of it in the cloud or somewhere else. Then there is also summarizing. There is disseminating. And like I told us, the checklist, we have checklists in page 41 of the recommended text. So you find time to read that. Then we want to look at the characteristics of a valuable information. If an organization's information is not accurate or complete, then the people can make poor decisions, and that might cost the organization a lot of money, thousands or millions of dollars. So it's good that any information that we are using or putting out, we have to be so sure that it's accurate and complete. Then we also need to know the type of data that we want to use. And some characteristics become more important than others, let's say. So this table describes or defines some characteristics of data and their definitions. So we have accessible, accurate, complete, economical, flexible, relevant, reliable, secure, simple, and timely. Because the thing about information is that it needs to be timely. Like we know what's happening with the use of the new currency notes now, particularly with regards to getting money from the bank. You see that if you need money, you need cash. At that point, you need the cash. But with what is happening now, you might need cash and you get to the bank or to the ATM and you spend the whole day. So in that case, it's not timely as such. So it's not timely as such, and there is a problem when it's not timely. If you need money at that time. And there are certain costs associated with not getting it as and when due. So if you need money, you need 5,000 and the bank cannot give you. And you see somebody that is ready to sell, it's funny that we are buying Naira. You see somebody that wants to sell for you because you need it, then you have to bear the cost. You now say, okay, I need 10,000 and the person will give you 8,000. So that's the associated cost with lack of getting your money as at when due. ATM, go to the ATM, it should give you money. When it's not giving you money and you need money, you have to look for other ways of getting money. And as such, you incur costs that are not or were not envisaged. So this one, plenty grammar, you just have to get time and look at them. Like this one, the one of accurate has to do with the garbage in, garbage out. So the computer is not that. It's not that the computer is smart. The computer just works on the information that's given to it. Example is, if a student at the point of registration calls his name something that is not the person's name, the computer is going to work with that. That's the garbage in, garbage out. So we have to make sure that at any point, the information that we are providing is accurate, because the computer doesn't have a brain. In fact, the school of thought says that the computer is so dumb. It's the humans that make it to the information that the human being give it, that it works with. So that's for accurate. And some other ones, you can take some time to look at them. The other thing we want to look at is the database and the file system. I told us that the database that we are going to use for this course is Microsoft Access. So we want to have an understanding of what does a database, what is it like? So that's what we'll be looking at in the slides that follow. So a database and a file system, there are two methods that are used to store, retrieve, manage, and manipulate data. Let me give you an example. An example of a database, like I've already said, is Microsoft Access. An example of a file system is Microsoft Excel. Both of them are used to store, or can be used to store data, to retrieve, to manage, and to manipulate. But they are not the same. The difference comes with the structure. Microsoft Access is a relational. That relational is very important. It's a relational database. What it means is that different files can have a connection with the other. What I mean is that, let me use a student's example. So a student has a matric number. That matric number is a primary identifier. So when you say relational database, you'll be hearing of primary key. The other thing you hear about is a foreign key. So primary key. A primary key is a unique identifier. What it means is that it's something that uniquely identifies the records. In the case of a student's records or a student's database, the primary key there is the matric number. What it means is that no two students can have the same matric number. They can have the same name, Adekunle John, the same departments, maybe different departments in the same faculty, but they cannot have the same matric number because it is a unique identifier that identifies or differentiates each student. And in a database, you want to do that because you don't want redundancy. Redundancy is just a repetition. You don't, who is this person that is eating? Let me see. So somebody puts on the camera and is eating Indomie and distracting me. Okay, sorry. So I was trying to explain that there is a primary key which uniquely identifies is particular. Each person has that. In America, there's something they call social number ID or something. So that means each student, or in Nigeria, you can call it a NIN. They are starting with a NIN or BVN in the case of the banking industry. So no two persons can have the same BVN, not minding the number of accounts you have. They use that BVN to link the different accounts to say that, okay, this account belongs to Mrs. Chika, whether they're in whatever bank it is, but that is a unique identifier that says this person has 10 accounts, so they link everything together. So that's it about the unique key. Then the foreign key. What happens in a foreign key is that there is, okay, let me leave it at this point. I will explain it as we go further. If I don't explain it during the question and answer session, please just remind me. So you can see that both systems can be used to allow users to work with data in a similar way. If you have a picture of Access and Excel, you see that the format is like that, tables. But the difference, like I said, is that one of them, a file system, is just a collection of raw data. You just collect them in raw data, but the database is a collection. Please just lower your hand. We'll take the questions at the end of the class. Just let me see. Let me copy in case this Zoom link ends before, then we'll use the same. We are going to use the same link if it ends before the time. We use the same link. The database is a collection of shared logical related data. So like I told you, the thing there is related. But nowadays, there's the thing about databases that are not relational in nature. So that's another thing that you should be aware of. There are databases now that are not relational in nature. So the format, in the beginning of database, everybody or everything had to be relational, but now we have databases that are not relational, like NoSQL, MongoDB, because those ones, they take different types of data. They don't care whether they can take audio data, they can take video data, they can take, just name it. So there's no, and they work seamlessly without having that relational nature. So I just need you to know that, yes, Access is relational, but we also have databases that are not relational. Character. So we're hearing things like concepts that are related with this database. We hear a character, and a character is the smallest unit of data. And it can be numeric. Remember, we gave an example of numeric numbers. So it can be just like 1. It can be alphanumeric, 2A, or special symbols, percentage, and is represented by a series of binary digits. So when we say binary digits, what we mean is 0, 1, 0 and 1. Then we also have a field. A field is just a combination of numbers of characters, and it is the smallest unit of a usable data. An example is matric number, that's a field. Student's name, that's a field. Age, that's a field. Department, that's a field. Course, that's a field. If it's employee number, surname, first name, address. So all those units or combination of characters in the smallest units that are referred to as field. Then we also have what is called a record. And a record is just a collection of fields of a specific type. Like the example that I've been using, a student record. So a collection of matric number, name, department, age, address, courses. That collection is known as a student record. Then we also have file. And file are just related records that are collected and grouped. Like I can have a file for a student record. I can have another file for course. I can have another file for maybe CGPA. Just a collection of related data that are collected is known as a file. And a collection of fields like the name, matric number is a record. And a collection or a combination of characters is known as a field. And a character is the smallest unit of data. Okay. Then we have different types of files, like a master file, transaction file, and a reference file. So a master file is a file that is fairly permanent in nature. Like a student, let me still use the student's records. So student records, yeah. So we can say that that biodata that was collected at the point of registration is a master file. So, and it can be divided into two: static and things that should not change or are not likely to change, and dynamic. Dynamic are the things that will change in the course of time. Example of static is the name. So we will not expect that a student's name on gender will change from 1 year to the other. But with the recent happenings in the world, you can see people that today they're answering Emmanuel, the next day they're answering Emanuela, and they claim for the change from one gender to the other. In the aspect of master file, those things should not change. Then for dynamic, we are looking at the courses. A student can start with one course and change. It's not so, but we have instances of where students change courses. And of course, the CGPA is meant to change from one point. After one semester, the CGPA should change. So those are dynamic. CGPA is dynamic in nature. Gender and name is not dynamic, they are static. Then we also have transaction or movement files. So this files type is used to update the master file. So the transaction file, an example can be like at the end of each semester, the CGPA is being changed or recalculated. That is a kind of a transaction file. Then we also have a reference file. Reference file are used for reference purposes. An example is just like a price list or pay rates. So it's just like you use it to check up something. for reference, as the name signifies. So these are the characteristics of files. We've already just elaborate. We have the character, we have the, so we have the character, we have the field or the column, then we have the records. So this is the field. This is the field. These are the character item. Item, all these things, combination of these forms the character, which is the column. This is a column. These are the column heads. Item ID, item name, price, quantity, and total. So that the records that we have underneath, like I can have item 1, item name, Omo, price, 50 naira, quantity 3, total 150. Just like that, I can have maybe 1,000 of the items or 10. So this is an example. So the whole of each of them, if the ID is 1, if the ID of this item is 1, then I can say that this ID matrix number is a unique identifier. Unique identifier is that thing that will differentiate this item from other items. Then we have the foreign key. The foreign key is just, it has a referential integrity. What it means is that a primary key, this item ID, which is a primary key in this file, can be a foreign key in another file. Maybe that file is doing something else. Maybe that's in that file I might have something else that is not, let me use course in this case. So I can have a course file where I have the course ID, then I have the course name, then I have maybe student ID and student's name. In the course ID, or in the course file, the course ID is the primary key. Is a unique identifier that says that CSC 227 is Introduction to Information Processing. There should not be any other file, any other course that has the same ID as CSC 227, which is Introduction to. So that course ID is a unique identifier. So when that unique identifier, which is the primary key, appears in another, maybe if it appears in this other item ID, then we will not see that there is a link, but here it becomes the foreign key and not the primary key. If that makes sense. Did I get back? Okay, so that's what I was trying to say. So a foreign key has a referential integrity. Is a primary key that appears in another file. It becomes the foreign key there. At the end of the day, I will make, it's not clear, I'm going to try and make more clarification on it. Then we have the file extension. File extension is just to tell you the type of file. Like this one, .ppt. When is .ppt? Looking at it, you know that this is a PowerPoint presentation. If it's .pdf, you know that is a Adobe portable file, reader file. If it's I think access is .mdb, you know that is access, is an access file. If it's .doc or docx, you know that is a word processing file. So that's the thing about file extension. It just gives you an idea of the type of file that you're working on. Then files are not multi-user by nature. What it means is that if I'm working on this file, some other person should not be working on it. In nature, it should not be like that. But today we know of instances where people can access the same file at the same time. Yeah. Then the next thing is file access methods. Because I want to access a file. How do I go about it? There is the sequential access, there is the random access, and there's, I think, indirect index access and index sequential. Let me try and explain. Sequential. Sequential is just the order. So you want to start from, so if I want to, I have 1 to 10 records, and I want to access the number 10th records. In the case of sequential access, then I have to start from beginning. So I will go to 1, 2, 3. So sequence. I'll follow that mechanism until I get to 10. But in the case of direct or random access, I don't need to follow that pattern of sequencing. I just need to directly, whether by form of index or hashing, just locate that number or that file which I'm looking at. So that's the thing about random access. There's no sequential mode of or mechanism that is used for it. But there are 2 ways that you can use for direct or random access. There's index. Index is just like you create a kind of a position whereby you already know that file number 10 is in position 8. So randomly, I just get to position 8 and retrieve the file. So it makes use of something that is called a pointer. But the thing about it is just know that it uses the idea of positioning or indexing or pointer. There's something that is showing you where that thing is located. So you just go to the address and pick it up. Then there is the index sequential, which is a combination of indexing and sequential access. In that case, the records are partitioned to groups and the groups are indexed. So it's not just about having the index, but those index the records are being partitioned into groups. And by so doing, the groups are then indexed. So you just go to a particular group and retrieve the information. I think I'm almost okay. So we are at the end of it. I'm going to, if you have questions, please let me open. If you have questions, either put it in the chat or you raise your hand so that we can attend to the questions. And before we take those questions, I also want to remind us that the course materials is available at the Department of Computer Sciences, room 4. Sorry, room 14. Room 14 is at the basement. At the basement. So faculty, Department of Computer Sciences is at the Faculty of Science. So when you get to the Faculty of Science, ask for the Department of Computer Sciences, then ask for room 14. Okay, Joseph, you have the floor. Joseph, you can ask your question. Kindly unmute and ask your question. Hello? Hello, Joseph. Your line, the line is cracking. Please, can you type your questions on the chat? I can barely hear you. The line is cracking. Hello, Joseph. Hello. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, Joseph, you can ask your question. If there's any other person that has the question, please feel free
Yes, ma'am.
to
Can you hear
ask
me
the
now?
question. Yes, I can.
Yes, I want to know if the price is this 4K or if it was
If
the price for the material. Is this
yes,
4K?
it is. Yes, please.
Um, okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Ma, please, I'm sorry. There are some of us that we are still doing CSC 120, and there's also material for that, and it's also 4K. So I don't know if they are both the same.
If they are, if
they
it's
are
the
both
same book.
the same material, exactly.
No, it's not now. It's the course content the same.
Sorry.
The course content is not the same.
That one is also compulsory. All right, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello, ma.
Yes,
Hello,
please.
ma.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Please, where can we get the textbook or the material?
Department of Computer Sciences. What's your department, please?
My department is biochemistry.
Okay, so you know Faculty of Science, right?
Yes, ma.
Yeah, you know Department of Computer Sciences.
Yes, ma.
Yeah, room 14. Room 14 is
Okay,
at the
ma.
basement.
Okay, ma. So that's where we can get it.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you, ma.
Welcome.
I also have a question, ma.
Okay.
The question is, the material, is it the same material we are going to use for our project for the course, ma?
Yes, please. Yes, it is.
Thank you, ma.
It has like a workbook at the back of it.
Okay. Thank you, ma.
You're welcome.
Ma, how much is the material, ma?
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All this are not in the
Somebody.
class.
Hello, ma.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Please, I want to know
It's not
the
compulsory.
implication of no getting the material.
The what?
Implication of not getting the material.
Implication.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no implication, no. But it's good that you get it.
Okay.
It's like it's optional compulsory. If you get it, you're doing yourself plenty good than harm.
Ma, I want to know the goods, ma, please.
The good.
Yes, the goods. The plenty goods.
You will learn plenty things from it now.
Okay.
You will learn plenty things, and it will also help your life. What's the aim of the course? Because I know some of you don't even need all those knowledge. Some of you, the only thing you need is GP to rise, Abi.
It's something like
Some people is just their GP. So if you get the book, you're on the way of your GP rising.
Oh, okay. Thank you so
Hello,
much.
ma.
You are not bothered with learning.
Hello, ma.
Yes, please.
So if we do not get the book, the material, how are we going to do our project, ma?
That's it now. You will not do projects now. That's what it's turned into. That's why I say it's optional compulsory. See that compulsory part of it.
Excuse me, ma. Please, can you display the earlier part of the slide for those who came into the class late?
Okay, I'll do that. So I will take it a step. Just a minute. So like so. What's happening? Just a minute.
14.
What happened? Can you see my slides? I think the whole thing has gone. Sorry. Oh my
Ma,
word.
please mute everyone.
Screen sharing has stopped as the sharing is closed. Oh. Okay, let me try again. Just a minute.
Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, I can.
All right. Is there a way we can all get the slides? Like, is there a way we can get the slides?
Yes, you can. I can share it through the WhatsApp with the class reps.
All right, great. That's good. Thank you.
Good.
Ma, please, how much is the material, ma?
Are you just coming?
4K, 4,000 naira.
So I'm trying to walk through the slides. Well, the person that asked about it.
But you said you will share it already, ma, on WhatsApp.
Okay, so I don't need to go through this, right?
Yes. Right.
Okay. So.
All right, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I want to ask a question regarding that project. How is it going to be like? And then number two, regarding the file sorting, what you explained, what can be the best of the options you're giving to us, ma'am?
The best.
I mean, which is the best method? Like the most preferable, according like as you are a lecturer, what can be the most preferable?
Is it in the file access or is it in the file in the database
file
type?
access.
It depends. Okay, so in the case of file accessing, if you're dealing with data that is not huge. When I say huge, I mean the size, maybe like 1 to 10 or 1 to 20, or better still, maybe 1 to 100. If I'm dealing with just 1 to, let's say 50 or 100 students, if I'm looking at the student records, then the sequential, I can decide to go sequential, right?
Okay.
When the size is small. But assuming I'm looking at the whole records of the students, of all the students in University of Lagos, in all the departments, that's huge. Then sequential is not going to be the best because it's huge. Maybe I'm looking for your name in that whole database. I might be looking at your name falls between the first 20. But what if your name is like 20,000 or 50,000? Then in that case, a random or a direct access will be better.
Okay, ma'am. All right, thank you very much. How about the project, ma'am? How is it going to look like?
We are going to use access for it. So we'll have sessions on access, and from there we'll now answer the questions that is given to us.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am.
Welcome. Is there any other question?
Good day, ma.
Yes, please.
Please, how can we get the slide of the earlier class? Are we going to get the slide?
Yeah, you can get it.
Okay.
It has been shared to your groups now.
We didn't get ours, though. We didn't get it.
I will share with the class reps.
Okay, thank you, ma.
In as much as the slides are good, the lecture is better because there are some things that I will even say that are not in the slides and are also not in the book. Like when I was talking about static data, it's a recent happening that made me to even use that example. I don't know how many people heard of the story of a man that changed to his identity to be a woman. It happened in Port Harcourt. I don't know how many people heard of it. You didn't?
We didn't, ma.
Are you not net citizens?
I
Don't lie. So nobody heard of it.
I did hear about it.
No, we are busy with our books, man.
I hear.
Yeah,
I
several
hear you.
stories.
Excuse me, man. Sorry. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, this is not a question actually. It's just a compliment. You sound really good, man.
Thank you.
I have a question around the database and
Hey,
file.
man. Okay.
Yeah. So what's the question, please?
So you said database and file systems have there are two major methods: you store, receive, and retrieve, manage, and manage. There was something you mentioned concerning both systems being able to do something. I didn't really get you there.
Okay, what I was trying to say is that both of them can store information. What I mean by both of them, I was trying to make or talk about Microsoft Access and Microsoft Excel. I don't know if you have seen or used the two applications.
Just
Access.
Microsoft Excel.
You've used Microsoft Excel, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you? Okay, good.
Yes.
So if you're using Access, you will see that it looks like Excel. But the thing is, Excel is referred to as a flat file system. It's flat because it does not have that capability of relationship or relational, yeah, let me say relations. It does not make use of relations. When
Okay,
you're
ma'am.
doing access, you'll be hearing of relation, foreign key, primary key. Yes, please.
Ma'am, please hold on. You said flat pie. I didn't really get what you said meant by pie.
Yes, I meant flats in the case that I can use Excel and just have like a I want to give this example. I can use Excel and have like a my contact list. I can store my contact list using Excel.
Okay, ma'am.
I can also store my contact list using Access.
Okay, so they have similar features.
They have similar in that the similar thing feature thing is that table-like structure.
Okay, ma'am.
Of rows and columns, where we said the columns are the fields, like student ID is a column.
Yes.
Student name is another column.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
I understand, ma'am. I have one more question.
Okay.
Around operational management system, you mentioned something like IIPO. I didn't really understand, ma'am.
IPO.
IIPO. PO, ma'am.
I can remember IPO, which is input processing and output.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Like an acronym. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Who is talking now?
I'm
Good
the
afternoon, ma. Please, I wanted to ask about the recording of the class. Is there a way we can get
Okay,
it?
that's actually what I wanted to ask about.
Okay. Yeah, we can share, right? We can.
Okay, ma. Please, we appreciate it, ma. Thank you, ma.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, while you were explaining the difference between Microsoft Access and Microsoft Excel, you said that Excel and Access can store data, but Excel is not relational.
True.
And it's referred to as a flat system or something like that because it's not relational. But you told us during the class that there are some databases that are not relational. So does that make them also flat systems?
No, they are not.
All right. So it's not the non-relational feature of Excel that makes it a flat system. There are other things to it.
Yes. Excel is carved out for it's not really carved out to be a database. It's a spreadsheet. It works best for accounting systems.
Okay.
Why those other ones? When you say database, it's just to keep records. You keep the records and you manage the records. How?
All right.
You can query the records. You can choose some set of information from the records. In Excel, you will not be able to do all those this kind of features that I'm doing. Like I have a record of students. I can decide to say, I want to see maybe students' performance. In a way, in Excel, you can see it right by using the custom sorts. But
okay.
yeah, you can use, but you're just doing it for the sake of like free train. But Access is going to be much more than that, because you can work with not just one file, but you can combine different files, maybe 5, maybe 10, you can combine them. But in in Excel, you might not be able to do that kind of operation on it.
Oh,
If
all
that
right.
makes any sense, yeah. So
you're saying
the ones I said that are not relational are example of them are no SQL. SQL is just a structured query language. But today we have another type of database that is called NoSQL. So it does not make use of those structured, but it's also a database.
all right. So if I have to build some kind of say
software or solution,
something that's not even software, maybe I want to kind of generate a kind of list that does not require calculations or formulas like in Excel. It's best that I do it on a database system.
True. Yes.
Okay, so
yes. Oh, sorry, somebody is talking.
In general,
are you listening to me, ma'am?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
listening, but I'm having background noises.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Please, somebody is talking. Let him finish.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, ma'am. So lately, I kind of generated a work roster, like a duty shift roster for an organization on Excel. I used Excel. So you're saying now that because that particular thing I designed requires absolutely no calculation, but then I use some Excel formulas to do some automated manipulations on the roster. So you're saying that instead of putting this on Excel, it will be easier for me and better to do it on a database system like
you can combine. You can do the database part in Access and import it into Excel and do the calculation on it.
It's not really calculation. It's just the use of Excel formulas to implement automation.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm working with numbers at all.
Yeah. So if you are not really working on numbers as such, and you're creating something that requires use of more than one table, because if you're creating that worksheet, you can find out that, and if you use the notion of primary key, I don't know whether you use such. If you use the notion of primary key, and who is this person that is making it?
mute your mic. She's explaining something.
So if you're not talking, please kindly mute yourself. Thank you.
See for courses who are registered.
Who is this?
Ma'am,
Is David that is talking, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't know whether I've muted everybody. So let me try to explain what I was saying. So I was saying that if the system that you created, or let me answer the question by asking a question. Did you use the notion of primary keys?
I didn't, come across anything like that.
Yeah, so if it's something, okay, now that you know, and whatever that you want to do, first ask yourself, like if it's in the case of an employee, then each employee must have a number. So you create those kind of things. If an employee has a number, which is unique to the employee, then it's better or it's likely that that same employee will also appear somewhere. That means when I say appear, is that the employee is going to be doing some other thing somewhere.
Yeah.
When I say somewhere now, it's like in another file.
Yes.
Whereby, yeah, so it's not going to be used as a primary. Then it makes sense that you use a database for it.
All right.
Yes, it makes sense. Excel is suited for accounting. You know accounting jobs, right?
Yes,
balance sheets,
yes,
ledger. Yeah, that's Excel. But if it's record keeping, processing as in record keeping, Access is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
Welcome. Welcome.
I'm sorry. I would like to be sorry. I would like to have a kind of personal meeting with you because I need help with something I'm working on at the moment, and I think from your explanation so far, a database system like Access will be best for it. It's actually records, but I have been struggling with using Excel and, a lot of complex things with Excel.
So this is David talking, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can send me a private DM, private chat, then I'll send my contact to you.
All right, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Welcome. Yeah. Okay, Daniel.
Ma.
Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon, Daniel.
Yes, ma. Some minutes ago, you mentioned about SQL, ma.
Yes, please. So what about it?
I want to know more about SQL, ma, and its uses also, ma. Can you explain further, please, ma?
Have you heard of SQL before?
No, ma. This is my first time, ma.
Okay, so it's a database application. So there's SQL, there's Oracle. So big organizations like maybe MTN, all these maybe the banks, they use, because they keep records. So they use some of the databases like Oracle. Oracle is a database system, also is relational. SQL, the meaning is structured query language. Structured query language is a database.
Okay,
just like Access, but you use it for the capabilities are much more. When I say capabilities, then you're looking at the number of records. Number of records that you can take. Like Oracle, you'll be dealing with millions of data. But maybe Access will not be able to take that number of data. But the workings are still the same. It's a query language. So you write query and you write in something like select, maybe all from, you now write the database name and you query it.
Okay, ma.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, ma.
Welcome. So we have Ibabuchi.
Yes, I wanted to ask, the conversation, I was the first person to ask a question on database and file system, and you gave some explanation to that. I wanted to confirm that is the Microsoft Access and the Microsoft Excel have similar functions but are used for different listening. So you also mentioned SQL and Oracle. So is the SQL a database that is able to do what both the Access and the Excel does, or is a form of database where you input those things and it just gives you it's a kind of language where you input those things and it gives you the required information you need?
Okay,
Thank
it's
you.
a database. It's a database like Access. So the workings are the same. So when I say the workings are the same, just have a picture of tables. So you have column heads, different column heads. Then you have the information maybe of different, if we are looking at the student records. So I can decide to create that student record in MS Access, in SQL, or in Oracle, or in any other database system. I can decide to create them there.
Okay, man,
What I'm
depending
trying
on
to say is that all of them, Access, SQL, Oracle, they are database application software. While Excel is a spreadsheet used for accounting purposes, if that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Your hand is still raised up. Can you please lower your hand? Do we have any other question? Do we have any question?
I sent you a private message already.
You have? I didn't see it too. Are you sure you sent it to me? David. Okay,
Excuse me,
don't
ma.
worry.
Hello, ma.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I can hear you. Chinonso, you can talk. Okay? Chinonso, I'm hearing you.
Okay. You're talking about the different types of spreadsheet now. Okay. So what I want to ask now ma, is this, okay, like Google Sheets and Doc. What's that? Are they also under spreadsheets or other database files?
Google Sheets is processing, is a spreadsheet. It's just Google's own spreadsheet. And Google Docs is word processing. Google Docs is word processing. It's Google's own word processor. The only thing
Hello,
about
ma. Can
those,
you hear me, ma?
yeah, I can hear you, Chinonso. I'm trying to answer your question. I said that the Google Sheets is a spreadsheet, but it is owned by Google. So it's a spreadsheet. It does the same thing that Microsoft spreadsheet would do.
Okay, ma.
Yes. And the other thing is that one is online. You don't need to have it installed in your system for Google Sheets, for Google Docs. It's a web version.
Anti-clockwise what? Moments.
Okay.
So clockwise, I will call this X, Y, call this what?
If we don't have any other question, then we can call it a day here.
Are we there?
Yes, ma, there is no other question.
Okay. So have
Ma, I have a question.
yeah, please do. Ask a question.
Into what?
There was a
Right?
slide where you talked about the types of like file, where you mentioned, I forgot what you mentioned, but the last one was reference file. The first one you mentioned, you said that one was a permanent type of file that it doesn't change. That one that has to do with gender and like age, so it doesn't change. The one of reference now, is that one also a permanent file since you're making reference to something? I mean, it's not so, like it doesn't change. The reference, something that like the reference doesn't change normally. So is it not supposed to be like the same kind of file?
It's about no. Okay, let me answer that one. When I mean by it doesn't change like that. So when we say master rights,
Yes,
a
master
master
file.
file, we are saying that there is a kind of it's permanent to an extent. What I'm trying to say at this point is that the frequency with which you use to change your name, like maybe you just change your name for a lady when they get married. It's not like they will change the whole name.
Yes.
So in a way, you can say that that one is permanent as opposed to a reference file.
Okay.
A reference file, just look at maybe if there are, if I want to use the example of a supermarket. Let me use that example. So today you go to the market and you have item sugar 400. That's a reference file, right? So anytime, even when the sugar is not taxed, even when it's not taxed, and somebody buys the sugar, he takes it to the cashier. The cashier, maybe when he scans it, the thing will not come out. Then the cashier will go to somewhere. Maybe he opens a reference file and he looks at sugar.
Yes,
and he just puts, so that is that kind of reference we are referring to at this point. Because that sugar tomorrow or in 2 weeks, particularly in Nigeria, in 2 weeks, it can change from 400 to 500. But somebody's name will not change in like 1 month, in 2 months. Yep.
Okay, ma. Yes, ma. Okay, thank you, ma.
Welcome. So we have 2 hands raised.
Wait.
Yes, please ask the question. Waneri and Michael.
Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon.
Ma, please, I was one I even asked you a question last week about the slide. Ma, are you giving us slide for this lecture?
I can give you the slides, yes.
Okay, ma, please, we really need the slides. We can also go to the places directed us to go and buy the textbooks. But first of all, we need the slides to be written ahead.
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma. Please, ma.
Noted.
Okay, ma.
Michael. Okay, I think you're the last person, right? Okay. So have yourself. Do we have any other question before we go? Okay. David, did you get my message?
No, I have not.
David.
Ma, I have not gotten it, ma.
Okay, continue. Say class of what level?
I sent a message, direct message to you.
There are 3 classes of level.
Check your chats. It's a direct message. Okay. So I'll be here for just like 2 minutes, and I'll end the call.
There are 3 classes of level. These are 1, first class level. 1, first class level. 2, 1/2, second class level. second class level, three, third class level. Stop. Over there. Stop. We take number one. Take number one, first class level. Number one is what? First class level. You're right. In first class level.
Stop now, guys.
Level. This is a level in which the effort